Oh, can people hear me? Okay. Sorry,
No, you're
we're
good,
having a little issue with the phone system today. Was that Jody? Is that you?
We can hear you now.
Okay, that was strange. If Carmen and I thought I was unmuted, so we're obviously having a little bit of a phone issue. Carmen, Steve, are you still on there? Hit *6.
This is Carmen. I'm on, and Steve's
There we
on.
go. Okay. Must have had a little bit of a phone issue there. So, okay. I'm not sure what the last was that people heard from me. So I'll just, I'll start right back from the top. Thank you all for joining today. We have our guest from the University of Michigan Economic Growth Institute on the call. Very much appreciate them taking time for my alma mater. Go Blue. I'll say that to my Spartan and Buckeye friends on the phone. The Economic Growth Institute has done a little bit of work in Shiawassee County, but they've got a number of programs that we believe could have some great benefit to a variety of businesses in Shiawassee County, as well as possibly some communities as well. So I know about a couple of them, but even I don't know about all of them. So I'm going to be learning right along with the listeners today. So very grateful for Steve and Carmen to take some time to be able to inform us on what's available to help all of us through this difficult time. So I believe, Steve, you're going to kick things off for the team, and we'll go from there. Steve? Carmen?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Justin? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. I'm glad you said pound *6 earlier, because I just did it and then you could hear me again. So
yeah,
okay.
there's something going on with the phone today. I apologize, everybody, but go ahead.
Okay. Again, thanks everybody for having us this morning and helping us get the word out. And what we want to do is share our programs with you that we've done in the past and let you know what's coming, and then really hear from you as to which way we can adjust to better serve the communities. So Carmen and I, who are on today, are both from the Economic Growth Institute. I ran the Surviving to Thriving program in the state of Michigan that some of you might be familiar with back in the recession times, where we work directly with companies. And we still do that today at the Institute. We work with a lot of different companies in different situations where there's been a negative economic impact. Examples would be when the defense chain had sequestration and the defense companies had a lot of contracts pulled, and all of a sudden they're knocked off center. And so we're in there helping them. Back in the recession, again, with Surviving to Thriving, working with all the companies and providing technical assistance to offset the cost of programs to projects, I should say, to help them get their companies back on track and recover from the negative economic impact and accelerate into the new recovery. On the community side, Carmen, at the same time in the recession, was running a program we called SEDP, which is a Community Economic Adjustment Program. And we've run that in many different ways through the years also. And that is, working directly with the communities to do the same kind of assessment and planning activities together, and funding projects to help the community get back on track. And I'll let Carmen get into that in a little more detail later of how that program works. And so again, today we really want to hear from you. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about ourselves, and then we're going to just get into the question and answer right away. Our work tends to always be outward facing. We are one of the only groups at the University of Michigan that works directly with the supply chains and the communities. Our specialty is usually around supply chains and manufacturing, the small to mediums. When those get bigger, we tend to, that at the university, that goes to the Business Engagement Center, where the GMs and Fords and others work directly with our Business Engagement Office, usually on, bigger sponsored research projects. Our institution, the Economic Growth Institute, we work directly with the small to medium-sized manufacturing supply chains and businesses in communities around that size of activity. We do bump up against the tier ones and the OEM sometimes when it relates to supply chains. So again, today we really want to hear from you, and then after Carmen will offer, she's put together a form where we can hear from you more in detail later, and you'd be able to fill it out. It's somewhat of a 1 to 2 page survey, but it allows you to put in your own information as far as detailed feedback on what might work or be better for your communities. So before I hand it to Carmen, just a little bit of detail on the programs of how we work with the supply chain to help you think and respond. And so when we work with the supply chains, of course, we're always trying to catch those lead dominoes and stop things from falling. And, this impact's been very broad. And so it's difficult, it's widespread. The med device folks and the defense contractors are still working. However, most of them are smartly diversified, and those pieces of their business are not working. So they have liquidity issues. The supply chain has been hampered, and without those revenues, they start to fall below break even, and it's a struggle. Goodwill has kept them open and working strong, and they're, as you've read some of the success stories, they're delivering. But there are issues of them working, being spread out, being less efficient than they normally are, and not getting some of the supplies, especially those that come from the European Union, are definitely hampered these days. And so there's disruption, whether you're working or not working. And then, of course, there's the other side of it where it's really tragic, and that's many of them that are just shuttered and waiting for things to open back up. So we're out there, we're working with them already and trying to help where we can, mostly so far with getting companies spooled up and retooled, and making sure that they know and get to the MEDC to get loans to help them retool to make the personal protection equipment and other things like that. In the near future, we'll start working directly with the firms as we have in the Surviving to Thriving days, and we'll start up Surviving to Thriving 2, and that is to help companies understand the new dynamics of supply chains and markets and things that are available, things that are no longer available, and try to give them the intelligence and the planning help to find a path to get back on track. And we work closely with the companies were typically funded by the Economic Development Agency or the Department of Labor, who funded us during the recession also, Office of Economic Adjustment out of the Department of Defense, and those kind of organizations typically fund us. So when we're coming in to do the planning operation with you, we're doing that typically on their dime. And then we have technical assistance monies where once we find high leverage projects that can move you forward faster, we will actually fund that out to the private sector. So again, in an economic development sense, that's really good. We're putting the money on the street so that those local consulting companies and them that people can't afford when you're in these kind of situations, you'll be able to afford them as a company, bring them in, get help, and get moving forward. And of course, then there's those entities that also then have income, and it's reinforcing to the positive economic impact. With that, I'll take more questions later, and I'll let Carmen talk about the community side of things. Carmen? Are you out there, Carmen?
Carmen, you there? Want to make sure that star six.
Got it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Phone's not being a friend for us today.
Welcome, Carmen.
Or my fat fingers on my own phone. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for having us, as Steve said. I will, not take up too much time and talk about the history of our institute. Steve has done a really good job with that, and certainly folks can go to our website and read a little bit more about us if they're unfamiliar or want to know up-to-date information. But I do want to underscore a few things that Steve said, as well as provide some examples of kind of the history of our engagement with the communities, a little bit about what our process includes, and what our current offerings are. I think that's kind of what people want to hear about right now, as well as, again, the follow-up. So as Justin mentioned, we have done some work in Shiawassee County and the region up there. We're really proud of the work that we're able to do across the whole state, but specifically with the Shiawassee region, because it's close to us, close to our hearts, and close geographically. I can mention the SEEP program, as Steve has mentioned. We've been up there to do recovery and provide resources in light of the economic downturn, the Great Recession, and the auto industry collapse. We've also done an incubator feasibility study, so we are able to do customized, individualized studies for communities, either for planned projects or very specific economic challenges like we're in right now. Although I will mention that a lot of our projects tend to be a little bit more longer term. We don't have the quick in and out necessarily, and we can get into some specifics if you have questions. Some of our programs might have a quick in and out, but we're a little bit more in the long game for your economic development projects or challenges or engagement with companies. So our history does include the feasibility studies, comparative analyses. If communities are looking to do projects for new development, we can go in and provide that analysis. We have a rich set of resources and a very skilled and qualified team to collect data and analyze it and provide you with a rich report for your community to use to seek other funding or to partner with a larger organization for resources. And that's just a little bit of our history. Our process includes a really strong facilitated engagement. Justin sat in on some of those workshops that we've had and facilitation meetings that we've had. We like to listen and learn, and then we like to match your needs with what resources either we have or what resources might be out there. We have a U of M office in Washington, D.C., as well as our deep connections with our legislators here. You all have that additionally, but we like to keep our finger on what's coming down the pipeline so that we can be able to direct resources to communities based on the needs that we've heard. Our current offerings, we have community solutions that we've been able to outline, and I won't get into all of them. They're on our webpage, but we essentially like to help communities assess, plan, and grow. So part of the assessing capabilities we have would be those feasibility analyses, some market research, some asset mapping, consulting that we do if communities are looking for that. And when I say community, we could be talking about a specific municipality. It could be talking about a county. We could be talking about a larger planning region. We've worked with all and are very comfortable working with all. We can help communities plan through strategic planning facilitation, as well as kind of non-biased group facilitation for decision making. And then we also help community grow, and we can do that through our strategic management as well. Steve mentioned we have a survey where we would like to listen to what your current needs are. We'll take questions. I think we'll open it up in a minute, but we're also going to forward a survey which anybody can take. It's unlocked. So we'll probably forward it to you, Justin, and your team, and then maybe you can send it out to the mailing list if appropriate, because we'd like to gather that information because we have more resources that are coming down the pipeline that are going to get filtered through our office, and we'd like to be able to direct those resources to who needs them at this time. So I think that's it in a nutshell. Again, we're a little bit more of a long-term engagement when it comes to community response, but we do focus on response and recovery to help stabilize the economies within a community. And we are sister and companion to the business engagement that Steve mentioned, and so a lot of times our staff come out in teams to work with the stakeholders, leaders, and business owners to help address kind of wraparound services for our community. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Justin or Steve and see if you want to open it up for any questions.
Yeah, so Carmen, if I could maybe summarize, because a lot of folks on the call, this is the first time, they're hearing from you guys. You really can be a great partner, not only for business, but possibly government, nonprofit, key stakeholders in helping them figure out, particularly with this crisis, I'm trying to get through it right now, but where do we go? If I'm an industrial company, how do I recover my customers, or where do I find new customers? If I'm a government, how do I handle, a drop in revenue? How do we reposition our community to provide services? Same thing with nonprofits, that sort of research and planning and marketing component, you can provide that with the firepower of the university. And along with that, because obviously there are, private sector consultants that, pay for that. You, with the affiliation with the university, you have access to either state or federal dollars, grant dollars, that can be used to help subsidize that cost on behalf of the businesses and communities. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Yes, and jump in, Steve. Different programs that we have, we are grant funded, but we are supported by the University of Michigan. So depending on the need, either we could address that need with our resources in-house, or we would look for resources that are coming our way from out of our office as well, and then we would pass that along.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just want to kind of frame that for the listeners on the call, because I think you're spot on. Every person on the call has a different situation, a different idea of maybe where they want to go. So it sounds to me like you have some flexibility across your programs to maybe have a customized fit for what they're looking for. So that's why I do think completing a survey and doing some individual outreach is critical. So what I'd like to do, we normally have a few other items, Carmen and Steve, to cover on the agenda, but we're a little bit later in time right now. So what I actually would like to do, I'm going to change it up a little bit today. If anyone on the call would like to ask a question or comment of Steve and Carmen and the Growth Institute, please do so now. And you can ask that by hitting *6. Anybody
Hi,
have
this is-
anything right now? Oh, go ahead.
Yep. This is Tyler DeBrabander. I'm the MEDC Business Development Manager in Shiawassee in the Lansing area. I've worked a little bit with the trade adjustment program from you guys, but a lot of this stuff I'm less familiar with. And I guess, understanding when the economy is reopening and our companies are looking to re-engage, what's the right time to get them engaged, either in the Surviving to Thriving program or some of the other things that you guys can assist with as they ramp up, and then any qualifications around your assistance, if you could help me out with that.
Sure. Is everybody hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Justin.
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Tyler, thanks for the question. And when can you engage is now, immediately, and we'll be setting up a page outreach on our site. You mentioned our Trade Impact Program. That's the original model that we've been working from as far as diving into companies and supply chains and helping them. We at the Institute have a lot of folks like me that are, have a little gray in the beard and or their hair and have been in manufacturing. That's probably important to know, as far as we're not a group at the university of faculty or PhD scientists. We're folks from industry. Most of us have done 25, 30 years in manufacturing and then came to the university. So we're very in tune with companies and how they operate and what their efficiencies, how those need to be. And now you kind of started to hit on, recently we're taking those playbooks that the larger companies have put out, Magna and Lear and others, and we're going through them, and we're going through CDC requirements, and we're working with the Michigan Medicine at the university to help. And what we want to do is synthesize that down and help small companies with a quick and easy plan of, here's how you get back to work, and here's some industrial operations engineering techniques. We have IOEs on the team, and how you stay efficient, stay lean, but yet still keep social distancing and protected, and those kind of things. So that's I'm thinking that might be part of your question. And so we have a lot of experience in industry and a lot of experience in the Michigan and Great Lakes Basin supply chain. And did I answer your whole question, Tyler?
Yeah, I think so. And one, that's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear you guys are doing that and really appreciate your partnership. I might have some kind of finer detail questions just to make sure I'm giving out the right message to our companies when I'm talking about what you guys can do to assist, but maybe that would be better suited for a separate conversation with you guys.
Sure. And I saw you on the webinar, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, I think, with Ryan and then the gentleman, Sean from Leo. And I think I have your contact list from the business development manager, Matt. We could talk after this.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
That sounds good.
Thanks
for your questions, Tyler. And I do wear two hats, so you probably have seen my name attached to the GL Tech program as well. So good to hear your voice.
Actually, that's an interesting thing, though, Stephen, because that is something we've been talking about, and a lot of our companies are looking at right now are, what do we do to reopen? We know it's coming at some point, hopefully soon, but, trying to understand, guidelines, plans, we all know we need to do social distancing and masks and all that, but how could you potentially help our companies in Shiawassee County with that plan? I mean, we're working on some stuff now, but what resources can you bring to the table to help our folks on the call with that planning?
Right. And so that's what we're working on right now. I mean, we already have a good idea of it, but we want to make sure that we we're constantly trying to learn too, and that's why we want to hear from everybody who's out there, and we want to gather the best information so that we can be the most efficient at it. Because obviously, this is pretty new to everybody. How do you come back and open your operations in the midst of a pandemic? Is not something we've all practiced. The last pandemic that I was involved in was in 1968 when I got the Hong Kong flu. So, it's a new thing, and we're on top of it, and we're going to share that. Our thing is to disseminate that with as many of the Michigan manufacturers as we can, and I guess the public. I mean, we got to have a community side of that plan, thinking out loud. And how do you get back and start opening up your government offices and those kind of things properly?
The one other question I'd ask too right now, so that's a topic, but obviously one of the huge issues for our companies, and I don't know if you can help with this, is securing dollars, funding. A lot of folks are in the pipeline or have got money from the Paycheck Protection Program or the other disaster loan program. Are you doing any work at all in helping companies identify funding sources or other resources to help keep them going during this time?
Yes, that's kind of our sweet spot, especially when we're doing the triage type work. I'll give you a few examples. One of them is for example, everybody's probably been reading and the story about National Filters. They were a client company of ours. We worked with them. We helped them with med device and cleanliness and those kind of certifications and such around making protective equipment and for the medical industry. And then, of course, we sent them right to MEDC to get the loan, to buy the equipment, to retool, and help them with as much as we could. On the other side of that, what I didn't mention earlier, just in sake of time, was we also at the Institute take all this information from the supply chain and we drive that back into policy. And so I've been providing language to different Senate subcommittees back in Washington, D.C. that's ending up in the bills as far as, the first rounds of help and the second rounds. This next bill that we hope to see in May should have programmatic money for us. And this is, again, where we need everybody's support on the call. This should have programmatic monies for us to fund these kind of activities and come into these companies with dollars, technical assistance dollars, to offset the cost of doing these kind of things. So we try to keep, we work that whole loop, and we try to keep as well informed as we can and drive that back into policy. And the short answer is yes, we do help find funding resources if we don't bring it to the table as technical assistants ourselves.
No, that's good. Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here about what are the pain points that our businesses are facing in Shiawassee County, and those are obviously some of the big current ones. So once again, I think you have a number of different things that, depending on what the business is or community and what their needs are, you can probably find something to work with on that. So any other questions for Steve or Carmen right now?
Justin?
Yeah, Rich.
Yeah. Rich Doherty, Rivers Fab and Welding, Rivers Security Specialist. I'm also a business consultant. So just as far as the whole area that you're involved in, it involves manufacturing, but does it also involve distribution companies? Does it involve service companies? And what are all the industries that can be involved? Is it across the board, or is it more toward the manufacturing?
Very good question, Rich. And anything involved with the supply chain, and we are industry agnostic. We will work with automotive, aerospace, biotech, you name it. If there are supply chain issues with distribution and supply. We'll work with those companies. And again, these are the things that when we see them show up on the surveys that Carmen's talking about, we will make sure that they get addressed. But the short answer to your question is yes, we do help those peripheral firms or in operations and industries also that are necessarily manufacturing something or we don't get into the details whether you're a distributor or a fabricator or an assembler or any of that. We will try to help them all. You mentioned you're a consultant, and I mentioned earlier the consulting side of it. We also tap all the consulting services that we can. We have a vetting process and a quick little, literally a 2-page RFP process that says, hey, please bid on this project. And we, again, fund private sector people to go into these high leverage points and help these companies. And so we also use that service industry quite a bit. And we have a database and we continually add to that database of providers.
Great. I appreciate it. There seems to be a lot that we can talk about. So I'll fill out your survey. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And there's a place for name and organization and everything and contact information. So we'll definitely get back with you on any details on there that you want to talk about. So thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions right now for Steve or Carmen? Okay. Well, as you guys said, you will be providing a survey, and obviously you'll have your contact information on there. Once you get that to me, I will get that out to our entire contact list. But based on what we heard, it really sounds like if you have anything with your own individual business or community, sort of a wish list of need to be able to help with research or connection to resources, that our friends from the Economic Growth Institute have some kind of program potentially to help and have dollars to help pay for it. So I'm very hopeful that coming out of this, Steve and Carmen, we'll have at least a few folks on the call that'll want to pursue something with you.
Great. And I just want to ask one last favor of everyone, and this is support. So when these monies start to flow down, we are going to the MEDCs of the world and the EDAs, and they always want support letters, and they always want to hear from the communities that, hey, this is something we want. So this is when you feed back to Tyler and others and the MEDC folks that in Lansing that this is important and they help and then that way the funding will come smoother and faster. So we would love that support also if you get an opportunity.
Great, thank you. Well, Steve, Carmen, you're welcome to stay on the call, or you could drop off. I've got a couple of other items I want to update the listeners on, but thank you so much for your time. And like I said, I'll get that survey information from you. I'll get it out to everybody, and then feel free, obviously, to connect with Steve and Carmen anytime. So
great. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care. Yep.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Great program. Thanks to our friends at the Institute. Hopefully you guys see some value in that. We'll definitely be trying to promote those by email in addition to the survey they're going to send out. Okay. I know we're getting a little bit later in time. I do want to hit a few things fairly quickly. PPP, EIDL, we've got additional funding approved by the Senate. $310 billion for PPP, $60 billion for EIDL. I believe the House may be taking it up today, and then obviously the President, I'm sure, will sign it. So those dollars should start flowing again soon. I did put out an informal survey via email. Many of you responded. It looks like about 55% or so of the companies that we're working with in Shiawassee have been approved or have gotten their money. So they cleared that threshold of the first round. So and then just about everybody else is waiting in the pipeline. So I'm feeling very optimistic with this additional money that we're going to get pretty darn close to having everybody in Shiawassee County that wants those dollars is going to get those dollars. So I wanted to give you all that data point. It does make me feel positive that overall we're going to do pretty well. And I think we're in a better position in this county than a lot of other counties in this country. So thank you all for jumping on that. And if any of you have not yet pursued those programs, and I say this a lot, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you. The Main Street program, we brought that up a couple times. There is one little update, Brent, I'd like you to share with the group. They're looking to modify it potentially. Do you want to talk to that?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yep. Go ahead.
Yep, sorry. So the Main Street lending had originally been set with terms of a minimum loan of $1 million and a maximum of $25 million. But it sounds like the banks who are going to actually be using this program are leaning a little bit on the Fed to reduce the minimum amount of loans. So if that were the case, we might say this is a tool fit for some more of our smaller companies. Nothing concrete yet. They're still hashing out the details of that, and obviously we'll keep you posted on these calls as we get more information, but that's where things stand today.
Thank you, Brent. Yeah, that's $600 billion, which is basically the first two rounds of PPP put together that's sitting there in the Federal Reserve that they're going to try to push out the door. So if they can lower that threshold, that could open up a lot of opportunity for businesses to pursue that. So stay tuned. More to come on that. A new thing I wanted to talk about, and I know a couple of folks on the call are playing in this world right now, this idea of, and Stephen Carmen talked about it a little bit, of converting a business to making product to support personal protective equipment or to deal with the effects of the virus. We're seeing several Shiawassee County companies that are doing it. And what's really interesting to me, in addition to supporting our healthcare providers, we also have some that are working on solutions that have a broader application. So I shared on social media last night, and I will send out an email on it today. We have two great local businesses, High Quality Glass in Owasso and SLH Metals in Corona, that are working on essentially a mobile barrier, a sneeze guard, if you will, that can be put on countertops in retail places, restaurants, offices, shops, things like that. And I want to make sure that as we go forward and things open up, if there are Shiawassee County businesses that are making a product that can help other businesses in the community meet standards, meet guidelines for protection, I want to promote that. Because if we're doing that and you need to get stuff, let's buy within the community. So not only am I going to send out information on the product being manufactured by SLH and High Quality, but if there's other companies in the county that are doing something similar that would serve those needs for our businesses going forward, please pass that information along. I want to share that with everybody. So very excited about that opportunity to help our local companies who are manufacturing and also helping our businesses that need product as well. So more to come on that. Safety, we're actually having a task force meeting this afternoon, thanks to Jeff and the Chamber for organizing this, trying to work on those safety guidelines, strategies that we've been talking about on reopening. What can our businesses, local governments, other organizations do to best protect for the public as well as their own employees? So many of you have filled out some information. I think we've gotten 30-some responses. Jody has put it all into a spreadsheet. It's great information. So we're definitely going to be sharing some information on that very soon, so you all can learn best practices from each other. I think a hope, in addition to sharing amongst ourselves, is we'll also be able to pass that information along to our friends at the state level as they look to implement guidelines. But Jody, can you comment real quick? I know you've been putting all of that data in that spreadsheet. Anything you want to update the group on what you're seeing so far?
I'm seeing, actually, we have a few. Can you hear me? Sorry, I guess I should have checked.
Yeah. Yep,
okay.
You're good.
We have several businesses, more the smaller type businesses, who are putting some of their own ideas into place, but really hoping to get some more information from us. We have some larger businesses who have put a lot of detail into plans already. So we've got kind of a good mix. We've got a good mix of industries covered. So anybody, from just about any industry in the county should be able to look at this list and kind of get ideas about how they're handling the safety and the cleanliness. So there's some very good information, a lot of very good details. I think it's going to be very helpful to anybody who is running a business to kind of get ideas from each other. There are definitely things that certain businesses thought of that maybe others hadn't. So I think sharing that is going to really help each other, figure out the best ways to handle things in your own company. There's a lot of really good data there.
So we'll hopefully get that out. Like I said, we have a task force meeting later today with some community and business leaders, but we'll definitely be getting that information out to you very soon. Jody, while you're on, do you want to talk about the webinar coming up tomorrow?
Yes. There is an SEDP webinar, and tomorrow they're covering, the topic is Get a Grip on Your Cash Flow. So that will be at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I did send a link to Justin that he can forward out. And again, if you register ahead of time, they send you a recording afterwards and all of the links to anything that they refer to during the call itself. But that's Get a Grip on Your Cash Flow tomorrow at 2.
Okay. Anything else, Jody?
I think that's it.
Okay. Two last things real quick. Did mention this the other day. Gift baskets. The idea there started with I wanted to spend my own personal stimulus check money on helping out local small businesses that could put together a basket of goodies, basically, from their business, which they could then deliver to folks in the community to make sure they got the product and do it in a safe way. So I put out a call via email, via social media, have gotten a tremendous response. Jody, we've heard from, 25 different small businesses, pretty much a lot of which are food-related. So that's not surprising. And so we're assembling that right now. We're also working with our friends at the Chamber on adding to that list, and then also possibly doing something bigger with that. But I did get a number of employers that said, hey, we'd like that list too, because we might want to do something for our employees as a thank you, if you're operating now or even if you're not operating, sort of a goodwill gesture. So same thing with those safety guidelines. We're going to get that list out to you very, very shortly. Jody, you're putting that together. It'll have names of companies, contacts, what their product is. Is that right?
Yes, and also the town it's located in. If you want to focus on a specific area, you'll be able to see everybody who is doing this in a specific town as well.
Yep. So just a nice gesture, I think, to help some of our small businesses out, and hopefully you'll be able to participate. And then the last thing is always jobs. Want to help promote jobs if you're hiring. But with that, we're obviously a little bit later than normal, so I will open it up to any comments or questions from the group.
Justin?
Yeah.
Rich, I just wanted to make sure that we can talk today. There's a quite a bit that's happening right now, and we may have some impactful news in the next couple of days on my consulting. So if we can talk, it'll impact a lot of people. So
Good.
okay?
All right, I'll give you a call a little later.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions from the group? Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you all once again. We're through our Thursday session. We got one more tomorrow. If anything comes up, though, feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. Thanks, everybody.